And so when I brought her to the United States, everybody, men and women, will try to take her from me. And I noticed, oh, your phone is locked. Huh. Never had a locked phone in our house, but now all of a sudden, your phone is locked. And that's when I said, well, since your phone is locked, who is Clint? Who's Clint? Who's Clint?
All right. Brother Keenan
Yes, sir.
from Ohio. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I know you got a busy schedule, hard working brother, entrepreneur, just like the rest of us hard working people trying to find a better life or make life as
Yes, sir.
good as we can make it. So I want
Yes,
to
sir.
get I just want to get right into it. Have you been married before?
No, I've never been married.
Never been married.
Engaged once, but never married.
Okay. How old are you, brother?
47.
Okay, cool. Still young. How old were you when you started traveling?
Um, really traveling, I was 30, 31, I believe,
Okay.
2007.
What made you choose and then you went to Colombia at one point.
Right, right. So make a long story kind of condensed here, short. Um, I went to first time I got my passport, first trip was actually Playa del Carmen, outside of um, Cancun, and I went there 2007, going into 2008, New Year's, as it was changing. I spent like 5 days there, and I'm not really a resort type of person. I was there with my brother, his fiance at the time, and they were resort people. I'm not the resort type, so I go into the city and meet people. And I met a group of girls. They were Venezuelans, and they just showed me a great time. So that was like my real experience. Kind of, I was on my own, but I wasn't on my own. You know, and from there, I just kind of like got bit by the travel bug, I guess. And I enjoyed that time in Mexico. A couple months later, I had an opportunity to go to Panama. And so I was like, what the heck? Go ahead and go. It's like a 7 to 10 day trip. But this is where things kind of get a little uh, interesting. Um, I'm in Panama and at a hotel. But at a hotel, it's a casino slash hotel. It's one of the nicer hotels on there in Panama, downtown Panama. Um, and there's all these beautiful women like everywhere. And I'm by myself. I'm 30, 31 years old. I'm by myself. My brother's there, but again, they like to stay at the hotels and different things like that. And I like roaming the city. So I'm going to different places and seeing all these beautiful women. But one thing I noticed that like a lot of the men had older men had these beautiful uh, women on their shoulders, and I'm like walking around by myself, and I'm in pretty decent shape. I don't think I'm a bad looking guy at 31 years old. And I'm like wondering why am I not, why am I walking around here by myself, and all these guys are walking around with these women. So one time I'm coming, one night I'm coming down through the casino, stop and talk to this guy. He was from Michigan, and so we started chopping it up, and he's like, I expressed to him about my concern about like, I'm been chilling by myself mostly. What's up with all these girls right here? He says, you don't know what's going on? I'm like, bro, I got no idea what's going on. Basically, all those women, they were working. I didn't know that. So,
Oh, like bar girls,
yeah,
working girls.
they were working. All the women at the casino, all the women walking around in different clubs with these guys. And I'm like really naive. I'm from BFE, Ohio, you know. Um, so I'm like, wow, okay. So even when I went to go talk to a girl, um, still kind of dismissing that idea, saying like, kind of not really ain't hit home yet. So I go talk to a girl and have a friend of mine. He's lives in Mexico, and so he's fluent in Spanish, English, and this is back when Nextel still had the chirps. So I was able to chirp him over in Mexico, and he could chirp back, and he was translating for me, and he was going back and forth. I met this girl, and I asked her out on a date, using him to help me translate. And she's like, "Yeah, I can't go out tomorrow night because I got to work, but the night after I'm free." So I'm like, "Okay." So the next night, I come down all dressed up and ready to go out, and I see her sitting at a slot machine, and I'm thinking, I thought she had to work. She's sitting here playing games at the slot machine or just sitting in the slot machine. And then it hit me for real that time that she was working. I was like, wow. So I started really opening up my eyes to everything that was going on there and realized that there's a better chance of me meeting someone from Colombia if I actually went to the country. Because I kept running into these Colombian girls left and right, left and right, and find out that they're all working. So um, the next trip took me to Panama and Colombia.
Okay. So the working girls, they didn't quite look like what you expected a working girl to look like, right?
Exactly, because
Okay.
being from the hood and everything,
I
you
got
used
you.
to, you know what runs around trying
Yeah.
to perpetrate stuff,
Yeah. They didn't look like the normal working girl. They
not the
almost look
ones
like
from around here.
yeah, almost look like something you could take to dinner.
Yeah, they look like something you want to take out and sit down with and get to know and you know take some pictures, send them to your friends, like make some video calls, whatever they look like that.
You don't know. What city was this you was in?
This is in Panama.
Okay. So now once it hit you, you see what's going on. Did you stay there or did you decide to I'm trying to understand at what point did you decide you wanted to look for love basically in Colombia?
Well, what happened was I came back home and I started getting on a dating site called Colombian Cupid, and so it was overwhelming then. Now it's just ridiculously overwhelming. But you're talking 2008. So I get on this website because I wanted to meet a girl who was not in that line of work. Now, I didn't know anybody in Colombia, so it wasn't like I could. I knew some webcam girls that I met online, chatting webcams and this, that, and the other. But I really didn't know anybody in Colombia, so I figured, hell, why not get online and meet some people? So I kind of set up certain things that I was looking for because there was hundreds and hundreds of girls, and I finally narrowed it down to actually five different girls, and sent a message to all five of them. Two of them replied, and one of them I started having more of a dialogue with, going back and forth, sending messages back and forth, planning to visit and different things like that. I had already been to Colombia before I actually met her, and I had met a few girls before I changed my criteria. Before I changed it, I had met maybe three or four girls in Bogota. I spent some time in Bogota. I met someone in Medellin also because I visited Medellin, and then I met this the girl this time where I narrowed it down to basically one person. The decision came down to really was that I wanted something different. I guess I've always wanted to travel, and Colombia is a great place. Cost of living, the people, the weather, going to down in Bogota. It's just a really great place to be single. It's a great place to be a single guy in.
What was your experience dating here in the United States?
Dating in the United States is rough. Um, Literally, if you are in Colombia, you would have, you could have a different date, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, you can have a date with a different person. And I'm not talking about sex or anything. I'm just talking about a seriously date. You go sit at a cafe for an hour or two, you get to know the person. You set up a lunch date, you do the same thing. You set up a dinner date, you know, and you can do that every day of the week, um, 3 times a day if you want to. You know, if you're financially in a position to do that, or you just trying to find that person, trying to see how you vibe with different people, or meet as many people as you can. Versus here, oh wow, I can't really think of. I'm trying to think of the last date I think I went out here was probably, I don't know. It's probably been months. Here it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot harder to meet people when you go online. If they're not a distance from you, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away, they love to meet you. But then there's that travel and everything that goes with that. Versus if they're close, it's like they almost shy away. The closer the person is, the harder it is to meet with them and go out and actually do something. So
What
it's really hard. But
what makes it hard? I mean, is the as opposed to the women in Colombia, is the attitude of the sisters
it's,
different
it's,
or
the, it's the attitude of you ask a Colombian woman, hey, you want to go to dinner? She's going to go. You want to go to lunch? She's going to go. The chances of getting stood up are very rare. It does happen. An American woman, I mean, you ask her out, she says yes, but by the time you get to that time, there's a million things that happen. You have a zero priority in her life or in her book or whatever she has. You fall all the way down below, especially if she has kids. So you got kids, you got work, you got her family, you got her friends, you got her neighbors, you got her animals. Okay, you got whatever else you got going on, and then there's you. So
oh yeah.
all that stuff has to go right. If anything in that chain goes wrong, you're
Yeah.
not gonna meet. You're never gonna make on that date. You just spend your time texting back and forth forever if you allow her to do that.
Wow, you way down on the totem pole, huh?
Way
Okay.
down on the totem pole of her
So
priority. And a lot of women in America, they'll let you know, well, I have all these priorities, and you're not that priority. You're not this. You're not that. Okay, I understand.
so how did you end up how did you hear about Colombian women?
I got into a little trouble when I was younger, and I was at a boot camp. Boot camp was like for people who hadn't really been in trouble before. I was probably 25 years old, um, 25, 26, maybe not even that old, but around that age. And I met some guys from, I want to say they were from New York or New Jersey, or no, sorry, they were from Florida.
Okay.
They're from Florida because this was a federal thing. And there was
Oh,
only two boot camps, one on the East Coast, which was out in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and then one on the West Coast, which was somewhere, I believe, in California, but I don't remember where in California. And the one on the West Coast was actually the women's. The one on the East Coast was actually the men's. So there was only one of these programs, and they were kind of hard to get in. Um, I was in this program, and one day the guys from Florida, Miami area, they had these big photos, photo books, and actually pictures that were on paper. Because it was something about it was harder to really get your photos in. We had rules, but if the photos were printed on paper, you could get more in than if they were actual uh, photos. So they whipped out all these papers and then passing on and showing them, and like all the women they're all Colombian. They're telling me about the Colombian women and this and that and the other, and I'm like, wow. And one of the guys, who's an older gentleman, his wife was a lawyer and she's Colombian, and he used to tell me about his wife and his trips to Colombia and different things like that. So it kind of piqued my interest. I'd never really thought about Colombia until that 6 months in that boot camp. And that's when it was like, okay, I'm like, well, this was like 2004, 2005. So this was about a couple years, 2 or 3 years before I actually took my first trip to Colombia.
So now Colombia is on your mind.
Right.
And you ended up 2, 3 years later, you ended up taking it. Wait, you started to communicate with Colombian women, and then you narrowed it down to one. What made her special?
Um, that's the crazy thing. A lot of my expat friends that I met on my travels there, they would ask me all the time. They're like, how do you do it? How do you just be with one woman? Because we were together in Colombia for 3 years, and then another 4 years basically in the States. But first of all, my thing was I saw how the Colombian men were treating the women, and I saw how a lot of the American men that would come would treat the women. And I didn't want to be just another gringo, another American coming down there, this and the other. And I told my friend one time, I'm going to be the only faithful man in Colombia. So once I zeroed in on this girl, she was it. And the way she stood out, I mean, she was beautiful, she was fun, she could be goofy. Um, she treated me great. There was really no anything I asked her to do, she would do. I mean, you talking about a ride. It was like she was a rider. It was, I used to brag about her. It was like the most perfect relationship I think I ever experienced in my adult life.
This was long distance though at first, right?
It was long distance at first. I would travel though I was traveling quite often then. And a 2 year span, I think I left the country 25 times. A lot of that was Panama and Colombia. So I was going to Colombia every month. Sometimes I'd wait maybe every other month. There's times where I went, come home for a week, go back for 2 weeks, come home for a week, go back for 2 weeks. So I did a lot of that. So while I was long distance, I was still able to see her almost every month, if not every other month.
Did you send her money? I know a lot of
Um,
guys do.
yeah, I did send her money, but it wasn't a lot of money. See, that's
Okay.
that's I don't understand. If you're gonna have somebody down there, 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, this money is gonna be something that they're going to ask for, or they're gonna need. There's gonna be a want. There's gonna be a need, um, for whatever it might be. So if you think you're gonna go down there and meet a girl and you're not gonna end up helping her out financially, either in the beginning or down the line or at some point, it's yeah, it's rarely gonna happen. Yeah, it does happen. I have friends, I have women that I've dated, and they've never asked me for a dime. But I will tell you, there's a lot more women who's asked for something versus those who haven't asked for anything. So her though, I didn't mind because it wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't like consider thousands of dollars, every month or whatever. It wasn't a lot of money. Um, and it went for things like paying the internet, for instance, and money for her phone. I mean, if I want to see her on webcam so we can chat or whatever, instead of her going to an internet cafe, because she used to do that a lot, go to the internet cafe, why not just get her everything she needs so she don't have to go to the internet cafe? Get internet installed, get her a little laptop, and that way she can communicate back and forth. And remember, this was 2008, 2009, so this was kind of before smartphones were really on the scene, and everybody was using computers to do video calls and whatnot.
Did you say you got her a laptop?
Yeah, little
Okay.
$150 Dell
Okay.
Latitude, cheap little Dell I bought on eBay.
I got you.
Nothing major. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not like it was an Apple MacBook. I got you. So,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
So you end up going down there. At what point did you decide you was gonna go ahead and apply for a visa? Because you end up marrying this lady, right?
No,
This
we
is
never got married.
this is not the one that
Oh, this
you
is the one. This is
brought
the
back.
one.
Okay. So
Yes, but
at
we
what
never got
point?
married.
Okay, okay. At what point did you decide that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and bring her back and we're gonna make a life together?
When she said that she was pregnant,
Uh-oh. Okay.
um, and truth be told, I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of stuff that I was facing in the United States. A lot of issues. Um, and I explained those issues to her, and I just think she didn't believe me, what was going on in my life at the time. Um, and uh, long story short, she stopped taking her birth control, um, and she got pregnant because of that, and which is my fault because I shouldn't have trusted her. I should have protected myself, and I didn't. That's one thing I have tried to tell people: protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself, protect yourself. I didn't protect myself. Even when someone had told me this was something that may have been going on, I thought maybe people were just talking, or it was a lot of going on, a lot of talk and a lot of BS. But they say where there's smoke, there's fire,
Right.
and there was some smoke, and I should have checked for the fire, but I didn't. So I got burned. Um, and so after I found out that she was pregnant, my first phone call was to my mom, and I told my mom that, hey, you got a grandbaby on the way, so I'm not coming home anytime soon. I got to stay down here and take care of her and take care of this child. And my mom understood. She, got to handle my business. Um, that would have been something easy to run from, and for the most part, there would have been really nothing she could have done about it. But that's not. I'm not cut like that. That's not me. That's not how I was raised. And if you bring a child into this world, you handle your business. So that's what I did.
That's understandable. That's commendable. So you applied for the, was
Now,
it, ex
yeah, go ahead. I'll answer it. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, was it expensive applying for that visa? And was it a long process?
No, it wasn't either. It was about $500. My situation was a little bit was a little bit different now because I was no longer going back in the U.S. going back to the U.S. So I was going home and working. Even though I could work slightly remote, I was going home to work. I was coming back, and now I wasn't going back to the U.S. I was collecting unemployment at the time, and this was that time where Obama was giving out like 99 weeks of unemployment. So I took advantage of that and stayed down in Colombia basically that whole time with her working on my online business, which was super successful, and taking care of her, taking care of our daughter, and working on getting them back to the United States. Visa was only like $500, but it was easy to get, and it took a couple months, I believe it was. It was easy to get because I had a child there, so there was no issue with that at all. So I ended up getting a permanent resident visa
For her?
for me.
Oh, for you in
I
Colombia.
was me, right.
Okay.
This is the way
Okay.
it started. I stayed in Colombia for 3 years
Oh,
with her
okay.
and my daughter until I was able to get in a position financially to bring all three of us back to the United States.
I
So
got you.
um, stayed in Colombia, worked online, finally got to the position, and my daughter was born in 2010, in August 2010. Um, I think September, October of 2012, I had them come to the United States. That came a couple months before that to get things ready, and then I brought them to the United States. She came on a tourist visa. I did a tourist visa. We traveled to Bogota, went to the Colombian embassy, went to the U.S. embassy. I got my daughter's born abroad certificate. Got my daughter's um, passport. Applied for her visa and everything, and I believe it took about at that time it was only like 2 or 3 months before they approved her visa and she was able to come. It wasn't a long process back then. There, you're talking 2012. It was a lot different, man.
Yeah. And your daughter is 3 now, right? 3 at the time you guys
At
came
the
to the
time,
United States. Okay.
she was 2 years old, 2 years, 2 months old at the time when she came to the United States.
Okay. So y'all in the United States, everything's going good in the beginning, I'm assuming.
Yeah, everything's going pretty good. Man, in the beginning, the first few months, everything was great. At least I thought it was great.
At what point did you start seeing things start to turn?
When she started going out with people that I knew, that I went to school with, see, being on Facebook, everybody knew, oh, we're in a relationship, we're together. So all the people in the whole my hometown that knew me knew that I was living in Colombia, knew that I had this daughter, knew that I had this girl in Colombia, and so when I brought her to the United States, I'll tell y'all this, and I tell Colombian girls this all the time. Everybody, men and women, will try to take her from me. Okay. Now with her, I used to tell them they could take her, but I guarantee you they're gonna bring her back. So, and that's what it was like. It was like when she was here for my area, especially. She was so exotic. She was so unique that everybody was just like impressed or smitten. And she didn't get that in Colombia. So that's people always say, oh, a Colombian 6 or Colombian 7 is like a 9 here, possibly a 10 here. Okay, so you have a woman who is a 6 or 7 by Colombian standard, but over here she already increases by 2 points. Then you throw in the accent and just the exoticness, from Colombia. You feel what I'm saying?
Now she's getting a bunch of attention.
Now she's getting a bunch of attention, a
Okay.
bunch of. I
So
mean, there
she,
was times where when I was riding past in my car, I don't know if they was looking at the BMW or they was looking at the chick in the BMW.
right. So she
Yeah,
came over here and made friends instantly. Well, your friends became her friends, sounds like.
right, right,
Okay. And she started going out with your friends without you.
right.
Okay.
Um, Started going out with my friends, and because I wasn't big on going out. I mean, we used to go to out in Colombia a lot, but here where I live at, there wasn't really, and there still isn't really much to do. And I'm not big on drinking. Okay, a lot of Colombians drink. A lot of Colombian women love to drink. There's some that a lot of them could probably drink Americans under the table. But I also think that alcohol is a little watered down. Also down there, I know it's watered down. So you may have a person from Colombia and they drink all the time and they really don't. The alcohol is cheap. It's watered down, so they really don't feel the effects of it coming to the United States. Because the killer is, I've never seen her drunk before. I'd
Okay.
never seen her drunk in Colombia ever, until she came to the United States, and that was the first time I actually seen her drink or drunk. Sorry, not drink. Actually, the first time I seen her drunk here in the U.S.
So she came in drunk one night or uh,
She came in drunk several nights. Me and
okay.
my daughter, I used to take her, put her night clothes on, tuck her in a bed, and spend time with my daughter or whatever. But yeah, she would come home. She would go out and come home drunk and sit together, and that was like the beginning of our problems in the U.S.
So what I mean, did it get to a point where she didn't come home one night or didn't come?
No, she always came home.
Uh-huh.
Um, it got to the point. I'm not the phone checking. the message checking, Facebook checking type. Okay, I don't do that. I'm not even the type that locks my phone. I mean, I do lock my phone, but in the course of a relationship, I'm not the type that I'm locking the phone so that my girl could get in my phone. Um, so my phone at the time was always unlocked. Her phone was always unlocked. So there was nothing I was hiding. There was nothing she was hiding. One night she comes in drunk and she was talking crazy, and she finally goes up and passes out on the bed. I tuck her in, and she came home a little early than what I was expecting, 12:31, and so her girls that she was with knew that she was home safe. They knew that she was okay because they're the ones that dropped her off. And I talked to them. So when she starts getting text messages at 2:30 in the morning, I'm like thinking I know it's not her girlfriend because they know she's drunk, they know she's probably asleep, and they dropped her off. They know she's okay. So curiosity got me, and first time ever in 3 years that I actually checked her phone, and it was a message from some guy asking her could she get a date. They had been texting through the night. She was saying, "Yeah, you can get a date." He was asking about your man. You know, you got your baby's daddy, whatever language he was using. She's like, "Oh well, all of my friends say he doesn't treat me right, and I can do better." And that was kind of the beginning of that end period right there.
So did you confront her about it?
Oh yeah. The next day we went to dinner, and we're at dinner, and I noticed, oh, your phone is locked. Huh. Never had a locked phone in our house, but now all of a sudden your phone is locked. And that's when I said, well, since your phone is locked, who is Clint?
Mm.
And then it just spiraled from there. And we had an hour drive because we were in Cleveland. So we had an hour drive with just kind of like silence or whatever. And when we get back the next day, she tells me that she's leaving. And and one of my so-called friends is the one that helped her leave. She was sleeping on their couch or on their floor or different houses, chasing dude around. Dude didn't even really have a pot to piss in. I guess he was waiting on his apartment to get finished, this new apartment he was moving into. So he was living with some people. She was living with, staying with, friends and different people, being bounced around and towing my daughter with her. And finally, I'm just like, you're done. You can do whatever you want to do, but the baby's coming with me. I'm not gonna have why is my daughter sleeping on floors and couches when she has her own bedroom and her own bed and everything in her room? And I said, so that's not gonna happen. So my daughter was with me, and she didn't want to be without her daughter. So she came back. Then she tried to say, oh, her mother tried to say I was holding her captive and all kind of BS like that. I'm like, I'm not holding her captive. They're like, well, she's not going to go anywhere without her daughter. I said, so what kind of father am I then? If I let my daughter sleep on people's couches and sleep different houses and on floors because she's with her mother and her mother is literally homeless. Literally, she's homeless. So what kind of father would I be to let my child be homeless?
Her mom
And
in Colombia was making those accusations?
yes, her mom in
Okay.
Colombia was making. She was telling her, they're gonna twist the story. Obviously, that it's me, it's my fault. And I'm like, well, how am I holding her hostage? Well, you're holding her hostage because you won't let her take her daughter. I'm like, you're not. First of all, it's our daughter. Second of all, she's not taking my daughter on strange people's houses. Now she's with new people and all this other stuff is going on. I said that's not gonna happen. My daughter's gonna stay with me. And so she ended up coming back, even though we weren't together for, I don't know, months had passed, because she didn't want to be without our daughter. So she had to move back in because she moved out. Like something went down and the police were called and it was done so that the report could be made. but I didn't know at the time. I had a warrant for my arrest for $300 in taxes. The judge just wanted to talk to me, and so they actually arrested me. And I got out the next morning after talking to the judge. And when I came home, all my daughter's stuff and all her stuff was gone.
Overnight.
So overnight, but I was yeah,
Mm.
I wasn't expecting that to happen. So I came home, and then I had to track her down because she's then ran off with my daughter.
The friend that helped her move, was
So
it male or female?
female,
One of your female friends helped
yes,
her. Okay.
one of the female schoolmates that I've known since like junior high.
She wasn't the same one that hooked her up with the guy that she ended up meeting
Same
later.
one hooked her up with the guy.
Same one.
Yep,
Oh wow.
same one. Hmm.
How did I figure that out?
Yeah, yeah.
So what would you tell? What would you? Are you a passport bro?
What's that?
Would you consider yourself a passport bro?
In the terms of that I'm a brother and I got a passport.
Okay, my man. So what would you tell? What would you tell these brothers that's looking for love abroad? What red flags would you tell them to look for? And how would you advise a brother to proceed with a foreign woman?
Take your time. One, take your time. Don't be afraid to meet different people and be honest. You know, be honest with her. Like, look, I want to meet this person. I want to meet that person because what'll happen is they'll weed themselves out, especially someone who's in it, for instance, for the money. She's looking at it, well, if you're dating this girl and you're dating this girl, you're seeing this, you're going here, that's less you can give me or less you can spend on me. Okay. So weed them out and let them know, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Um, the other thing is, as far as what red flags is, see how she is with her family, whether she's close or she got a relationship with her family. See if she's willing to wants to introduce you, because one of the things right away is if a girl really is into you, really likes you, really has nothing else going on, one of the first things she wants to do is she wants to introduce you to her family and her closest friends. Okay, that's that's up there of one of the things that they do. So you look for that. See how she treats people, how she treats strangers, how she treats people that she don't really like that much. Those are really the things that I would look at, and the red flags I would be paying attention to. As she's always talking about coming to the United States, that could that could be a red flag. And if she has no conversation, that's a big red flag for me. People that really she has nothing going on for herself. She's doing nothing. She's not working forever in school, has no goals really, no motive, not really motivated. Ask questions. If she gets upset because you're asking questions, that's a red flag. So there's a lot of little things that you can look for when you're meeting these women, and kind of weed them out. I mean, one of the big things is that she's asking money like that. You met her online, and within 3 hours of chatting with her, she's saying, Amor, can you do me a favor? Can you help me? Udemy, can you help me? That's uh that's a big red flag right there.
In hindsight, with this lady, what would you do different? Or what would you have done different?
Protected myself during sex. That would have been the one thing that I would have done different. Um, and I'm big on using protection. So it's not like I'm out there not using protection, not using protection. But we have been together for 9 months and seeing each other. So when you're with somebody and you're planning on spending that much time or longer with them, you kind of you have that rapport, that relationship, and you start to have that trust there. And so you don't think that they're going to do this to you or that they're going to do that to you. But when they got ulterior motives, anything can go.
Okay.
So I would do that. But outside of that, take that
Mhm.
off the table and say, okay, well, you already did that. So let's start from that moment on. I would, from that moment, from the time that had a child on, from the time she told me she was pregnant on, I don't know what more I could have done different that would have been wrong. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing I would have done different from the moment she told me she was pregnant going forward. There's nothing I would have changed in that because ultimately I wanted my daughter here, which I think she knew that. So ultimately, my baby was going to be here, which means her mother was coming with her.
Okay. I mean, for brothers just meeting women and they not quite at that point yet where the woman is not pregnant, but would they, okay, prior to her getting pregnant, would you have still brought her to the United States, even if you were planning on having a long-term relationship with her?
In the beginning, wow, I actually tried to do a student visa and it didn't work out. So that was a yeah. I think with her, I would have tried to bring her into the United States regardless of the child because at the time we had a good relationship. And I'll be honest, that 9 months that we were together before the announcement that she was pregnant, I've never seen that woman again. I don't even know if that woman even existed. You feel what I'm saying?
So once she
So
got pregnant, everything changed.
everything, it was like a light switch went on. Like everything was totally, it's like you don't see everything in the dark, okay? And then somebody turns on the light, and you're like, whoa, where did this come from? I didn't see this. Well, that's how it was, and that's how it's been since that light switch. This is how it's been. And then you're talking about my daughter's 13 years old now. I'm still in court, still fighting over just dumb stuff. I mean, just years of dumb stuff.
That was my next question. How's the relationship between you and her now?
Horrible, horrible. We don't get along at all. We don't get along at all. And there's a thing called we like to say it's not how you do. It's not what you do. It's how you do it. Okay. And if you know anything about my backstory, I was in the federal system for a 7 year period. And during that period, she had me my back. I mean, visits, and she went to work and money on the books, and I mean, she was great. I'm thinking, dang, when I get out,
Oh, wait, wait.
I'm
While
this is
y'all were what? So I mean, interrupt you, but while y'all were together, you ended up catching a case and you did fair time while y'all were
yeah,
together, and she held you
while we were
down while
together
y'all were. She was there with you.
for the first 3 years. She
Okay,
held me down.
okay.
Um, Almost every visit, whatever she could do, she was doing it. So it kind of really started erasing all the stuff that she did before. Because I'm thinking, we're going to make this work. She's going to be there. And, going into it, I wanted to leave because I know the stories, I've seen the stories, and I know that 9 times out of 10, the relationship is not going to make it. And I don't need that pressure and that sadness, that depression, all the stuff that comes with that while you're going through a situation like that. I'd rather be by myself and just have me and my family, not someone who is not technically obligated, is not family, can walk away at any moment. I didn't want that, but I stayed with her, um, even though I knew it was going to end. I knew there's no way she's going to make 7 years. She's not going to do it. But I did what I could do. She did what she could do, and at some point, we were going to get married. And I had been fighting literally. I sued in civil court, federal court. I sued the county, I sued the state, sued the federal government, and I actually won the case that allowed us to get married in that prison. And just before we were going to get married, she came and broke off the engagement. Um, Long
This
story
was
short, but
this was year three.
this is year three.
Okay.
This is year three. 2016. I got locked up 2013, 2016. She came in and she announced that she was needed to be some time on her own and this and that and the other. The first question out of my mouth was, "So who is the man?" And she's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Who's the man? Who's this? I don't. There ain't nobody. Why do you?" I go, "Because I know you. I know you, and I know how you are. So who is it? There ain't nobody. I just want to be by myself. I just want to be okay. You just want to be by yourself." Well, she was having an affair with her friend's husband, and she got pregnant, and this is why she broke it off. Instead of being woman enough to come to me and say, "Hey, there's somebody else. I'm pregnant." Later on, she tells me that, "Well, I didn't know if I was pregnant yet. I wasn't sure yet, but you waited 3 months to tell me." Actually, longer than that. I think was it like 4 months to tell me that
This
she was
not the
pregnant.
this not the same mutual friend that y'all had that helped her move her stuff, is it?
No, no. She no longer talked to those individuals.
Okay,
She
she made new
totally
friends.
took them off. She made new friends, friends inside of the congregation. I'm not really going to go into the whole congregation and my religious beliefs and where I come from. But let's just say it's a worldwide organization and they knock on your doors a lot. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that there.
Okay.
She's part of this organization, this worldwide organization, and she's in the congregation, and she has an affair with one of the parishioners. I don't know what you want to call him. She has an affair with one of them, and it's actually her friend's husband, and she gets pregnant. And so this is the beginning of the end for us, or the end of the end. I don't know what you want to call it. It's over at that point.
Wow. So year three, she comes in, she's pregnant. She don't admit it to you that she's pregnant, but she's having an affair with the guy. She tells you it's nobody. And so now you coast out the next 4 years. And when you get released, how well, obviously 4 years later, she's got a 3-year-old child once you touch down. So
Mm.
how was you all's communication at that point? And now your daughter is 7 at this point?
My daughter at that point would be about 10.
Okay. Your daughter was
Mhm.
10 at this point,
My daughter's 10.
and she's got a 3-year-old child, and you
Mhm.
just coming home,
Right.
getting ready to get a restart your life, and here she is. So
Mhm.
you got to communicate with your child's mother in order to get along.
Right.
So
Well, let's rewind, okay? I have a sister that has just held me down like 7 years every day. Okay, I have four siblings, but this one is closest to me. She's 8 years older than me, and she's the closest to me. Um, she held me down that whole 7 years. I mean, all my family did. One of my brothers was actually locked up with me, so there were three of them out there. But she made sure that my daughter continued to come with me while her mother was pregnant, because obviously that's not going to happen. So she wasn't coming to visit anymore. My daughter continued to come to visit me. But the problems arose that as soon as she gave birth to that child. As soon as she gave birth to that child, she attempted to cut me and my family off from my daughter. My sister had to actually go and take her to court and sue her for visitation. And since that point, this has been her reasoning for being nasty and cruel to my family for all these years, because my sister took her to court. Even though my sister had not been without communication from my daughter from the time my daughter came from Colombia to here, My sister had never not been in communication with my daughter at some point on a daily basis. Okay, never happened up until her mom gave birth to that child. And when her mom gave birth to that child, my sister lost communication with my daughter for a total of about 50 days. Okay, at the 30-day mark, I told my sister, you have to go and file against her because if you wait too long, it's going to be out of our county because they moved the county over. It's going to be out of our county, and you're going to have to travel to that county and file everything. And every time you got to go to court, it's going to be in that county. So you need to file in our county and get this done now before they have her officially is moved into the other county. And so my sister went there and she filed, and my sister actually won visitation of my daughter. And that was just 4 years of being in contempt and calling the cops on my sister, her and her husband, and just being disrespectful and nasty. And these people were horrible. I mean, they were horrible to my sister for 4 years. You talk about in contempt, and I kept trying to push my sister. This woman missed 9 visits before my sister finally went to court to file contempt. And then she continued to miss another 6 visits until we got in the court. 15 visits in a row missed with my daughter. And that's once a week. So that's 15 weeks of no visits, no communication. Because the only time I got a chance to talk to my daughter was when she was with my sister. So for 15 weeks, there was no communication until we got in the court. And the judge was ready to lock her up, but my sister is compassionate, and my sister's like, let's let's not do this. Let's just work through it and this and that and the other. And so they worked through it, and she stopped doing that missing visits because she didn't want to get locked up. And this is what it came to. I mean, and just so much was done those 4 years trying to convince my daughter that she should have the same last name. Everybody else in that house has that same last name. Wouldn't it be nice for her to have her name changed? Just dumb stuff like that. Getting the people at the congregation to call her by this other last name and not what her last name was. Trying to attempt the school to do it because she started a job at the school. So she attempted to try and get the school, which they wouldn't give in to that because legally they can't do that. So she wasn't able to get them to do that at the school. And then the ultimate thing is just coming home after 4 years and my daughter being totally afraid of me. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it's crazy because I would go out and meet other people, meet other families, and these little kids coming up to me and talking to me or want to hug me or want to play. But my own daughter was standoffish. She wouldn't even. It was hard getting her to talk. We couldn't play. We couldn't. We could. I couldn't even tickle her. I'd tickle her and she would tell me to stop. But that made her feel uncomfortable. So I couldn't even tickle my own daughter for I say probably about a year. It was a good year. And we had to go to counseling. I mean, we had to do all this stuff because my daughter was brainwashed against me. But it wasn't done in such a way where your daddy's this, your daddy's like some women are just your dad did this, your dad that, your dad this. She didn't have anything to say that I actually did to her. What she did do was your dad's in prison. And he must have done something bad because only really, really bad people go to prison. So that's what her and her husband was enforcing that only really bad people go to prison. Only really, and then when a child is hearing this for 4 years, that only really bad people go to prison and her dad's in prison, what can they think other than your dad must be really bad?
Wait a minute. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Are you saying that she married the guy that she had the baby with that had
Yes,
the affair?
he divorced
Okay.
his wife.
Okay.
Hmm.
Did
And married
him and his did him and his wife have any children together or
her. They had a daughter, and that was my daughter's best friend. Um,
oh wow.
yeah, at the congregation, that was my daughter. She's about a year and a half, almost 2 years older than my daughter. And so they spent a lot of time together as small children. And then They became stepsisters, and now they are. The little girl decided she wanted to live with her mom full time because she was going back and forth, a week with her dad, a week with her mom. Well, some events transpired, and now she's at the point where she wanted to be with her mom. And so now her and my daughter don't even have that relationship that they had. These little girls grew up together, 3 and 5 years old. Now they're 13 and she'll be 15, the other one. And now the only relationship they really have is text messages and at school because they still go to the same school. But outside of that, I mean, it's a situation that that little girl can't even call my daughter and say, "Hey, you want to come to the movies with me?" And this is a child, this is your stepsister that you've been living with since you were 6 years old, basically. And now at 13 years old, you can't even go hang out and kick it with your stepsister because whatever's going on.
Would you date, well, would you bring another foreign woman to the United States? Would you do it all over again? Would it be from Colombia or would it be from another country or would you
It
do it
could
at
be from
all?
anywhere. It could be from Colombia. It could be from everybody's different.
Hmm.
And then I will give every woman that I meet an opportunity until she shows me something that I don't like. Till she shows me something that I've seen in either my daughter's mother or I've seen in other women that I've cut loose. So I'm not against bringing anybody here. You have to know the person as best you can because just because you're in a relationship or you get married, I mean, think about it. Even in the United States, how many marriages fail? Okay, it's overwhelming the amount of marriages
Let's
that fail.
ask Google what percentage of marriages fail in the United States. Oh, it says 50%. According to Google, almost 50% of all marriages in the United States end in divorce or separation.
Right. So, I mean, if you bring a girl here, it's the same. You got a 50-50 shot of whether it's going to work or whether it's not going to work.
Wow, those are some crazy odds.
Right.
And yet we still do it all the time.
And yet, we still get these, they still do it all the time,
Yeah.
you know? So,
So,
so yeah,
okay.
I'm not against that at all.
So being through what you've been through, would you still say you have a better opportunity overseas than with American women?
All day long. All
Okay.
day long. I mean, it's Saturday night and I'm doing an interview with you. You feel what I'm saying?
And I appreciate you being here, brother.
Hey, I ain't got a problem with this phone. But I'm telling you right now, if I was in Colombia on a Saturday night, I wouldn't be doing an interview. Nah, I'd be doing an interview with you. I'd be at some club or at some restaurant or out walking around in a beautiful part of the city, and I'd be doing a live while I'm walking through the city. You know, that's the thing. It's just the opportunities are more. The women are beautiful, but they all know they're beautiful. Like one girl, she's beautiful. She's like, yeah, yeah, that's we're all beautiful. So what? So when you're in an area where you're physically attracted to 80% of the women, I mean, you can't go wrong. And I'm not here around here. I'm not physically attracted to 80% of the women. It's probably the reverse. I'm probably physically attracted to 20% of the women, maybe less than that on a daily basis that I see around here. So the numbers are just skewed differently, you
Well,
know?
a lot of guys have issue more so with the attitude and the expectations of Western women as opposed to the attitude of a woman overseas. Would that be the
Right.
same case for you?
I don't, I don't really get an attitude because like I don't know where these men are meeting these women that have these attitudes. Okay,
Okay.
because if you're from Warren, Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, BFE, Ohio, nobody's for the most part up here anyway. You got what I'm saying? There's no like one of my friends like, oh, he's talking about 5-star restaurant, my this and that and the other 5-star restaurants and da da da. He lives in Pittsburgh and wherever. Okay, that's Pittsburgh. We don't have 5-star restaurants or anything that I would consider a 5-star restaurant. We don't have 5-star restaurants. We have nowhere here where People are dressing up or whatever. You go to a restaurant and these people will be dressed up nice and these people will be wearing jeans and flip flops. Okay, this is where I'm at. So I'm not in an area where I can say, well, the women only want these one percenters of men, or they want high value men, or they want this and that and the other. That's not what I experience here. What I
Okay.
experience here is more of a it's more of a well, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you don't do all this nonsensical behavior. So we don't really have anything in common, kinda. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If you're not partying, if you're not a rebel rouser, if you're not causing trouble, if you're not doing this, if you're not doing that, then and I do all this stuff, you're not gonna support me. You know, birds of a feather flock together. That's more of my thing. And when I
Okay.
do meet a woman who is cool and has a good vibe and is just sweet and polite, the first thing I do is I always do is I look at her ring finger and guess what? She's got a ring. Almost every time I meet somebody where I'm like, man, I could really vibe with that chick. She's got a ring.
Okay. So it's more of a compatibility issue over here.
Right. It's more
Okay.
of a compatibility issue.
Okay. Well,
And then you've got the kid factor. You know, when you're in your 40s, you meet a lot of women that's got children. And as they're going up to their 30s, into their 40s, they're all about, well, my children, my children, my children. I ain't got time for this, or I got my children come first. And your children should come first to a degree. But what I find a lot of times is the women that are my age, now that the kids are grown and they have time, well, guess what happens? Those kids that they were chasing, those sons and daughters, especially the daughters that they were chasing, and couldn't do this and couldn't do that because of this, they've got children now. So now these women have grandchildren, and guess what? Now they're stuck with the grandchildren because the daughter or son, whatever, is out living their best life, while mom, grandma, is chasing around toddlers again. So it's like a cycle. It's like, okay, you should be at that age where you should be able to enjoy yourself, but now you can't enjoy yourself because you're allowing your children to put their children off on you so they can go and enjoy themselves, unlike what you didn't do because you were chasing them around. So that's a lot I see. No one has time now because they're having grandbabies now, and they didn't have time before because they had children. So
it's actually a good point you just made. I didn't think of that.
see it all the time. I talk to women all the time my age, and they're like, yeah, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter, and I'm like, you're chasing your daughter's a grown woman. She's 19, 20, 21. You're chasing her. What are you? And then next thing you know, oh, my grandbaby. Oh, my grandbaby. I got my grandbaby. Oh, my grand. I'm like, wow. Okay. So yeah, that's how that usually works out.
So how does it look for you currently as far as the relationship status? Are you
Right now, I mean, here in my hometown or even around here, not much is really going on relationship status. I did meet a girl, and she's from Colombia. Like, yeah, right. I don't learn my lesson, right?
she lives here? She was already here
no,
when you met her?
no. She lives in Bogota,
Okay.
and I have to say that I mean it's all new, and I haven't actually met her yet. We've just been corresponding online,
She got any
and
kids?
she's got a little doll baby. She's 2 years old. She's a little doll baby.
Okay.
Um, she's got a 2 year old, and I'm just gonna say this: I've never met anyone that talks the way she talks. Okay, the stuff that comes out of her mouth, and she attributes it all to grandma. So basically, her parents passed away when she was young, and grandma was always there. So she attributes all her knowledge to what her grandmother taught her, what her grandmother told her. And one of the things that stands out, I'm going to tell you this. She was talking to a friend of hers who was going through depression, female. She's going through depression, and she's telling the girl. She asked her, what can she do? How can she get better? This and that and the other. Why is she going through this? She tells the girl that the problem is that you aren't really working. You don't have a child. You have a man that takes care of you and makes sure you have everything you need and everything you want. You have a good man. He does everything. He doesn't ask you for much. He doesn't require much. She says what you need to do is you need to get a project. You need to get a business. You need to get something of your own so that you have something really to look forward to when you wake up every day. And this will help you with your depression. Some type of goal because you have no goals. You have nothing going on for yourself. She tells her that if you don't do this, that you're going to lose that man. You're going to lose that man because of your depression, because of the way you are. You're going to lose him. So if you don't want to lose this man, then you need to work on yourself. And this is what this woman told this other woman. I was just like, wow, okay. I've never I've never heard a woman tell another woman something like that. Yeah, she's 32. She's a little bit younger than me, you know, but that's how this woman talks. So I'm like, I'm really anxious to explore more with her and see where her mind is. If she's talking like that, I'm definitely she's piqued my interest.
How long have you guys been talking?
Only a couple months. It's like I said, it's brand new. I'm looking for those red flags, and right now I'm not seeing anything off the rip. She's very independent. She works every time she gets a chance. If she's not working a regular job, she's working a little side hustle, or she's working at her friend's restaurant, or whatever she needs to do for extra money. Instead of saying, "Hey, Keelan, can you help me with $20? Can you help me with $10? Can you know what I'm saying?" She doesn't do any of that, and she actually communicates and talks. You know, a lot of girls down there will hit you with the good morning, maybe good evening, good night, but a lot of them won't message you first. You got to be the one to always reach out. You got to be the one to do this. You got to be the one, and they'll be like, "Well, that's because you. I want to see if you're interested about BS." Okay, they're really, really bad about reaching out to you first. If you find one that, and then the ones that do reach out to you first, you see the messages, and it's like, here she go again.
Don't tell
What
me
she
it's
want
money.
now? What she want?
Uh,
Yeah, who's sick? Who dying? Who ain't got no food? Who? It's always something. So it's like, no. So this girl is really a breath of fresh air. I don't know, if it's gonna last. I'm just anxious to see where where her mind is, where it's going.
you want to eventually be married?
Yeah, I would like to eventually get married. My family is really big on marriage also. So it's not one of those things where I can just have oh, this is a girlfriend, or oh, we're living together. Yeah, I did that. It didn't work. They accepted it because of the position that I was in, but it kind of put a little separation between my relationship with my family, being in a relationship, living with a woman. So I'm not going to go down that path again. If I'm going to live with a woman, if I'm going to have any type of real or long-term relationship with a woman, it's going to be in a marriage situation setting.
You spent a lot of time in Colombia. Was it any cultural differences or barriers that you had to overcome?
Language is still a problem, but outside of the language, I say no. There's not really living in Colombia for me was like an adventure every day you walk out on the street. It's like for guys who play video games, it's like turning on your favorite video game when you wake up in the morning. Okay, that's the only thing I can describe that as you. The weather, the people, the food's not the best, but I'm not a big eater anyway. So
Was you ever
and that
safety? Was you ever concerned for your safety?
funny you mentioned that. I had a club for a while in Bogota, in an area called Santa Fe,
You owned the
and this
club?
area, yes,
Okay.
I own the club. This supposedly was like the worst neighborhood in Bogota. They would ask us all the time, where you bring those, what are you doing around here, blah blah blah. But the people were very respectful. The other club owners, the women that were around there, the patrons, everybody was just really cool, really respectful. A lot of them thought it was cool that some Americans actually put a business right here in the middle of all this craziness. Okay, because this whole area was like is a red light district in Bogota. It's like several blocks. It's like this block over here going this way is all the women, and then this block over here is the lady boys. So we were like in the middle of all this stuff going down in Bogota, and walk the streets at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Nobody bothers you. No real issues. After she got pregnant and I closed on the club, we moved to where she had a little apartment in Dale. Dale was right outside of Medellin. So we lived there, and I think in my first 2 weeks, these three little midgets, they weren't really midgets, but they were like at least 6 to 8 inches shorter than I was, tried to rob me.
Oh, wow.
There was three of them. I had just left the ATM machine. I had, pockets full of my Obama unemployment money, and they were rubbing up against me, bumping up against me, trying to go in my pockets. So I started slapping their hands, pushing them away. One of them pulled out an ice pick and was trying to jab me with this ice pick. So I picked up a chair. There's a furniture store. I
Was
picked up a
this a
chair,
was this a
swinging.
dark street or
It
uh,
wasn't even a dark street. I was getting ready to go down a dark street, and as I looked down a dark street, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going down there. So
look
I
a little
turned around.
sketchy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just now I went down a dark street later. I was like, I was waiting for the dudes to jump out, but nobody ever jumped out for 3 years after that. So, but these three dudes, I finally fended them off. The police came down the street, and I yelled, "Policia, policia!" Got their attention. They stopped, put me in a paddy wagon, and took me to the police station. And the captain there spoke English. And I explained to him what had happened and whatever. He called my daughter's mother. She was just pregnant at the time. My daughter was born, and she came and got me. And that was all my years of going to Colombia. That was just me being basically at the wrong place at the wrong time and kind of looking like I didn't belong in that neighborhood. I basically chalked it up to that. Because after that, I was like, okay, one, I'm leaving the house prepared, and I never had a chance in 3 years to see if how prepared I was if something went down. Which I'm thankful for. Believe me, I didn't ever want anything to go down, but I wanted to know that I was prepared if something did happen.
One final thought that you want to add to the
Mhm.
brothers out here traveling tips.
Take advantage of your freedom and the freedoms that we have because not everyone has it, and your freedom isn't always guaranteed. And regardless of what you think, it's not a entitlement. You're not entitled to your freedom, especially if you do something that people deem that your freedom should be taken away from. Make sure that you make the best out of every day out there and enjoy the world. It's if you haven't, if you don't have your passport, thinking about it, go get it. Go get your passport. Get out there, explore, see what's out there. It's a whole big, beautiful world out there, and there's so many beautiful people all over the world. And just have fun doing it and enjoy it. Live your life. Don't worry about what people say. You come back to the United States, you'll get comments from little women. Oh, you ain't learning your lesson, or oh, Mr. International, I see you doing it. You get little snide remarks and things like that. But you know what? Hey, if they could do it, they'd be doing it too. So just and one other thing is try and set a good example also wherever you go. Don't be, they call them ugly American. Don't be out there making us look bad. Don't be out there making us look bad. 'Cause some people be out there making us look really bad. And be aware of the laws. Okay, something real simple. I had some half naked bikini, whatever, uh, photos on a hard drive, on a flash drive, and I went to United Arab Emirates, and they made me delete those images. They checked my flash drives and made me delete all those images that I had before I was about to enter into the country, leave the airport. Um, because it's illegal to have that content in that country. Now, could I have been arrested? It's possible. And you would think, wow, he got arrested over some bikini pictures. Yeah, I got arrested over some. Would have got arrested over some bikini pictures. So when I look at like people who go to other countries from the United States and they break these simple laws and they get these harsh punishments. For instance, the basketball player. I can't think of her name right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, I
she
don't remember her name, but yeah.
you you gotta be aware of the laws because things you do here and get away with here, they're not gonna fly in a lot of places. The last thing you want to do is be locked up abroad, have your freedom taken away from you out there. So that's it. Just go out there and make us look good.
I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. No problem. Okay. Anytime, if you ever want to do one, let me know. I'm always up for it.
Yeah, maybe we can come back and do some updates and see how this future lady, this current lady works out. And,
Bet.
go from there. All right. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
brother.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey, you have a great night and Godspeed.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, brother
Take
Keelan.
care.
Okay, that was brother Keelan, y'all. Uh, he came on, and I appreciate that. Appreciate that. I'd like to hear thoughts from you guys as far as what you thought of his story, what questions you thought I should have asked, and what do you think? What do you think? Do you think he learned his lesson? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another one of my content creations. This is Mr. Maxwell. Like, subscribe, share. Questions, comments, thumbs up, thumbs down. Either way, I wish you well.